It just made no sense. It looked cool though. It looked really cool. The slow motion of the gun close up to her face and all that looked really cool, but it was ridiculous. I already touched on the visual awesomeness of the film due to the way Zach set up those stunning shots. So that is definitely the up. The visual directing was just phenomenal. You know, the direction in terms of the fight scenes and the choreography themselves was just bravo. I mean, that was amazing. His directing of those fight scenes was just cool. And yeah, I already mentioned that when Batman goes and saves Superman's mom, how much I love it. But man, those visuals were great. But I also love that I knew what was actually going on in the scene when he was doing it, right? Because Zach set it up in his direction to where you know why he's going to go, you know, what he's going to go do, and you know what his motive is. While I'm watching Batman taking care of business, it's not just visually awesome, but I also know what's going on, right? It's not just senseless action. And if you were to put all of those fight scenes, all of the different fight scenes and the beautiful scenes that Zach set up, if you were to put all of those things in a movie on its own, it would just be phenomenally great. It would just be amazing. But the problem is, all of those fight scenes were not in a movie of their own. They were not in a world of their own. They were in this movie. So that's the down. Oh my goodness. The thing about Zack Snyder is that he gets so caught up in the visuals that sometimes he forget about storytelling. As you remember in the opening remarks, this was one of my concerns. The visuals, the fight scenes themselves, all of those things were wonderful. However, where's the storytelling, Zach? I really had a problem with the direction in this film. I felt like the scenes in this movies were ripped right out of the comics. And that's wonderful. That is great. I love comic books. However, I'm sorry, but I didn't sign up for a comic book. I'm watching a movie. So you got to bring the film goodness along with the awesome panel scenes. Instead, I felt like these were visual video scenes from a comic book. And speaking of the scenes, I have three main problems with the direction of the scenes in this movie. And I will start with this one. Slow motion scenes. I mentioned earlier that I was going to touch up on it later. Well, here's that time, folks. The slow motion directing was eye-rolling and frustrating at times. Just completely like that. I felt myself and caught myself doing that multiple times watching this film. I mean, you got slow motion of people walking, you got slow motion of people's head turning, slow motion of people's looking at flowers. You got slow motions of slow motion, everything. You know, Zach, everything doesn't need to be slow motion. I mean, seriously, the first 7 to 10 minutes of this movie is just pure slow motion. It's just ridiculous. I mean, it was brutal. The slow motion directing was horrible. And here's the thing. The slow motion directing, it actually took away from some scenes that actually could have done a really done well with slow motion. I'll give you one example. Do you remember that scene where in the courthouse where you have the ridiculousness of, you know, it blowing up? The scene itself was actually really cool because it was shot in slow motion, and the direction of it where you have Superman closing his eyes, really saddened by the fact that there was an explosion. And so it's almost like you were engaging in Superman's super speed, where all around him, this is all going, you know, the explosion is happening in real time. But in Superman's world, it was all happening super slow. That was kind of the way that it was shot. It was really, really cool. Unfortunately, Zach, by the time I got to that scene, I was already burned out on slow motion. So that's kind of one of the ways that slow motion just really brought it down for me. Here's another down. Unnecessary scenes. There were so many scenes that were just unnecessary. It made the story feel disjointed and it just did not flow well. Here's an example. You know that scene when Bruce, he is just staring at the bat suit And it looks stunning. Where the bat suit is in that case, it looks absolutely stunning, but it made no sense within the context of the story. It made no sense regarding the previous scene and the following scene. Like, I don't think Batman, he didn't suit up in a bat suit after that. You don't even see Bruce Wayne in the next scene, as far as I remember. The next scene goes to something else. It doesn't even go to Batman. So it was in the scene before, it had nothing to do with Batman. It was literally just bloop, popped in there. Just plotted right on in there out of nowhere. It made no sense. It was completely disjointed. There was no reason to have that scene. If you want to give us the scene, again, the scene it looked cool, but within the context of the story, it made no sense. So if you wanted to do that, you needed to either have the following scene, have Batman do something with the bat suit, like not that he's just, staring at it or something. I mean, I don't know why they did that. It was completely ridiculous. It made no sense. And here's another scene. That scene where Batman is fighting in the desert against the parademons. That was amazing. The choreography, the fighting, the way the camera movement, like your direction within that scene was just so cool. Zack did a great job with that. Here's the problem. That scene in itself was completely unnecessary. Completely unnecessary. It was really cool, but it wasn't clear. Cool and clear are like brothers. Don't separate them. You proven you can give me the cool. The scene was cool, but you also need the clarity. And there is no clarity because the scene was unnecessary. It made no sense within the context of the actual film at hand. If you think about it, I get it. It was a catalyst to bring in set up the Justice League movie and all of that other stuff or whatever. But within the context of the story that you guys are telling me here, having a dream sequence made no sense whatsoever. Because if you take away that scene where Batman is fighting with the parademons, just take that scene away completely. You miss nothing. Literally, there's nothing that you miss within the context of this story if you completely take away the scene where Batman is fighting against the parademons. Because that whole scene is about the Justice League. It really had nothing to do with Batman v Superman. So that's an example of a scene that's completely unnecessary. So yes, the scene itself was visually beautiful, but directing is more than just the visuals. You got to be willing to cut out entire scenes that don't work cohesively with the story. And Zack failed to do that in this particular regard. So I talked about slow motion scenes. I just talked about unnecessary scenes. My third problem that I had within the direction of the scenes in this movie is ridiculous scenes. If unnecessary scenes are like when you take whole scenes or segments of scenes, and what I'm saying is that you need to remove the scene itself because the scene itself is unnecessary. Here I'm talking about scenes that may actually be necessary, but what you see within the scene is ridiculous. I'll give you an example. You remember when Kid Bruce Wayne in the beginning of the movie fell down at the, Batcave or whatever, and then he just starts hovering in the sky. he's being what the heck? What is that? Zack, what is that? Like, am I supposed to believe that the bats are lifting him up? Or is this some kind of dream? Or it's ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. Another point is a little bit earlier, when you see the death of his parents, the guy with the gun, he loops the gun underneath her, Martha's, pearl necklace. It was absolutely ridiculous. Nobody does that. It was so weird. If you're going to rob somebody, you would just shoot them outright. You wouldn't get the gun so close to get underneath the necklace, breaking apart all of the different pearls that you were apparently trying to steal. It just made no sense. It looked cool, though. It looked really cool. The slow motion of the gun close up to her face and all that looked really cool, but it was ridiculous. Just absolutely ridiculous. So that's another example of scenes that are ridiculous scenes. It was just completely ridiculous. That scene where Superman, remember part of the movie where all of these people they have a flood and they're on top of the houses and they sprayed the paint of Superman's symbol to get him to come and help them, save them and all that stuff. And then there's a part where Superman is just hovering there, watching them, just looking at them, just hovering, right? That was really cool. It was visually stunning. However, it was ridiculous. because you don't even see Superman save them. They are in trauma and he's just hovering there. He's Superman, for goodness sake. He has super speed. He could have, in the blink of an eye, saved all of them and be done with it. And save them from more trauma. Instead, you just got a scene where he's just hovering there watching them. Like, what is that? Come on. Whatever. It just seemed like it was all about setting up cool shots. You know, I feel like this whole movie is Zack setting up a series of cool shots. Let me get this cool shot. Let me get that cool shot. Let's get this cool shot. And it wasn't really about the cohesiveness of the story at all. Again, cool and clear are like brothers. If you want to give me a cool shot, give me the clarity as to why you're showing the shot, and give me some clarity within the scene so as not to be ridiculous. So that's my down with, you know, this particular slice of the pie with the direction. But all around, I see very mild attempts at telling a great story. But it's very clear that telling a great story fell by the wayside with regarding the direction of this film. That telling a great story, again, there's, you know, small attempts there, but it really was not priority. The priority was cool shots. And that really showed. I felt like if the screenplay suffered from lazy writing, the direction suffered from sloppy directing. And honestly, if you would have cut back all of those doggone slow motion scenes, or at least a significant number of slow motion scenes, you probably could save a good 20 to 30 minutes of this movie. And I'm not even exaggerating. You literally can save probably about 30 minutes of this movie if you cut away or cut back on all of the slow motion stuff. And you could have used that time to give more screen time for Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne, or Batman and Superman, to develop those characters, to develop those relationships, to pay off the Martha scene. There's so much more you could do if you cut back on all that slow motion crap. So anyway, that's the all around. I know I was really harsh on this slice of the pie, but I really was rooting for this movie. What do you guys think about Zack's directing? Did you like it? Did you like the slow motion stuff? Maybe you guys really enjoyed all of the slow motion. Maybe you wanted more slow motion. Comment in the section below and let me know what you think about the direction. In the meantime, I'm going to give this slice a score and a verdict. And for this slice, the direction, it gets 20%, scoring 3.4 out of 17 points, making the direction an awful slice. Peace in, my friend. You just finished watching a segment of a Movie Pie episode. If you liked it, give me an up and click right here where you might enjoy another segment, or if it takes your fancy, click right here to enjoy a full episode while I enjoy a cup of coffee. Or is that tea? It's better anyway.